Hi. What I'm here to talk about today is how banks in the UAE are using social media. So what we did was we ended up looking at around 5,000 messages throughout the last year, almost a year worth of social media data across Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. And we're looking how people were communicating on social and what were the banks posting, what channels are they present on. So we're looking at the publicly available data. So let's define first what an active bank is. So every study has active. So Facebook considers an active user different than Twitter and so on. So what we defined as an active bank is a bank who is active on a daily basis on social media networks. So every day being present and up to date. So this is how we looked at the active element of it. So 43% of banks in the UAE are on Facebook, and they're active on that channel. 39% are active on Twitter. And again, active as in they're there every day, communicating, posting, replying, and so on. If we look at LinkedIn and Instagram, so on LinkedIn, we're talking about 75% usage. On Instagram, it's a bit different. It's at 36%. And we're going to talk more about activity and where they are in each channel. Now, you notice that they joined as in date of opening the account, because opening the account is the beginning. It's easy. If you're looking at, so it's or as far back as 2008, there was a surge in 2011. So they've opened their accounts before, but when they really started to be active on them is Q3 of 2013. So around 8 months ago or so. So we sensed this huge surge in social media activity, and this is part of what triggered this study, because we sensed this presence on social and this activity, and we looked into it. So although these are historical accounts, so they've opened them back as far back as 2008, but the real activity started in the third quarter of 2013. And also looking at Twitter, we also see that it goes back to 2009. 2011 also had, so if we look at Facebook and Twitter, we get to see on 2011 there was this, this Facebook and Twitter, this online thing that we want to look into, but the real activity happened in Q3 of 2013. The average community size is around 102,000. So when we look at the obsession with likes, it's, we're 2014 and brands are still obsessed with likes. So this is why I want to get it out of the way in the beginning of the presentation, because that's a common question we always get. So there are around, and when I talk with brands all the time, there are around 60 indicators, 60 KPIs to look at in terms of community size, engagement, how you post, content analysis, activity. So it's a wide variety, 60 things. Facebook, the likes, the community size is one indicator of those 60. 50 if you want to be conservative. So Facebook likes is one of them. So looking at those KPIs, so on average, it's around 102,000. So if you're into banks or you want to compare the financial industry with other sectors, 102,000 is the community size. So if you're below that or above that. And keeping in mind, this community size is heavily triggered by online ad spend. So you need to spend advertising in order to grow the community size that you have, to raise awareness about your brand and so on, to get people to know you, see you, and then like and connect. And you can see there's a growth in the community size, a gradual growth. So from Q3, you get to see this jump all the way here, and then we're looking at April and May. So this is what we're looking at here. So in Twitter as well, we get to see around that. So Twitter, we have around 60, community size is around 16,000 on average. You get to see this growth as well. So around a bit more than 16,000 followers on Twitter. Now, looking at number of updates, the reason we look at updates is we've seen brands struggle with keeping their pages up to date. With banks in the UAE, they've been very active, even on weekends as well. So that's a good sign. So looking at a quarter, if you look on a quarter basis, the average updates per quarter by banks is around 261. So 261 status updates per quarter on Facebook and 271 updates per quarter. You get to see on weekends, they post less, but they still post over the weekends as well. Now on LinkedIn, the average, so we're talking about 75% of banks in the UAE are on LinkedIn. So the average followers is around 13,570 followers on LinkedIn. But we look at the activity. So it's around 4 per month. So updating their LinkedIn pages With posts, it's around 4 per month. That's very, very, very low when you compare it on the activity that they do on Facebook and Twitter. So looking at per quarter, we're looking at 261 updates, but on LinkedIn, we're talking about 4 updates per month. And very few of them, only 10%, are using showcase pages. Showcase pages is a feature released by LinkedIn on November 2013, where you can target different segments of your audience with specific services, content, and so on. And banks are in that industry. They have different types of audiences and so on. And so only 10% are taking advantage of that. On Instagram, we're looking at a community size of, on average, around 500 followers on Instagram, with 12 updates per month. Now, looking at the activity of the brands on Facebook and Twitter, you get to see in in quarter 4, how it decreases a bit. It doesn't mean their activity is decreasing. It's all a matter of maturity, of trying to find the right balance of what works for my community. And you get to see different seasons. During Ramadan, some banks choose to increase their activity tremendously. Others choose to reduce it. Each have their own audience and their activity, and it's done based on that. And the number of posts on LinkedIn is growing, but it's still low. We're talking about on average 4 per month, which is not much. All right. So we talked about the growth. So the growth rate of the community sizes, we're looking at around 30% growth rate in quarter 3 and quarter 4 of Facebook. And on Twitter, it's a bit less, at around 25% of the growth rate of the community size. And the drop off a bit here is a bit normal in the life cycle of a brand. So when a brand starts, the first obsession is we need a community. We need the number of followers and likes to grow. And that's why there's this huge investment in growing that community. And then with time, once that obsession is a bit over, the focus here moves not from building the community size, but on actually engaging more with them. Let's listen more to what they have to say. What are they interested in the stuff that we're doing, and so on. So it moves more from, and it's normal in the life cycle of any brand that's active on social. Now, in terms of content analysis, we looked at 4,500 messages over an 8-month period. So from quarter 3 till quarter 1 of this year. We see that 45% of the content is about marketing the brand and the product of the brand. And 36% is about engaging with customers. So marketing the product of the brand, that means this is our card, this is our service, this is our online service, this is our mobile app, get this, see that, check that. So 45% of the content is marketing the brand itself and the product itself. Around 37%, we're talking about engaging the customers. We're going to zoom into each of these for you to see the difference between these elements. So when we look at marketing by brand, we're looking at different elements. So if we zoom, so we're zooming into this, all right, to this one. When we look at this, we're looking at 64% of this. It's about the general product itself, product service that the bank has, and the other 22% is competition related. So these are the elements that are driving the marketing element for banks that are communicating. So it's about the products and services, and then also a good portion of this has to do with competitions. You've seen. So we're showing examples here of when they're marketing a brand. You know, thanks for choosing us for this and for that. They have the updates in English and Arabic. We're going to talk about the languages. And one of the tactful things that we sense that the banks were doing, so instead of directly pushing the product or the brand itself, they talk about the lifestyle thing, and then they relate it back to the brand, which is a bit tactful in a sense. So, for example, they talk about family and holidays and so on, and then they say, actually, we have this summer exclusive thing if you want to take advantage of that. They talk about sales in different, at different places, and then they talk about, their partnership with that place. So they introduce a lifestyle, and then they tactfully try to introduce the service that they have based on that. All right, and of course the competitions, I'm sure you've all seen, like, vote, share, invite your friends. I'm sure you've come across all sorts of content in that direction. Now, engaging the customers, this is a bit small. So most of it, the engagement, is about asking questions. So these are the basics of engagement when it comes to trying to get responses to this. So brands have noticed that and Facebook is publishing a lot to introduce questions into what you're being active with. So so most of this is about asking customers their questions. What are you doing this weekend? What's happening, and so on. How much time do I have? 10 more minutes? All right. So weekend activities, what are you guys up to, what are you doing? So these are examples of engagement elements that they have. And then other public awareness elements: don't access your banking services from public computers, keep your identity safe. So those are not necessarily brand specific, but they have to do with the industry itself. In terms of language, 70% is English, 70%. Banks in the UAE. 17% are purely Arabic, and we see 13% are a mix of Arabic and English. You've seen these status updates, right? Where it's the same update that has English and Arabic in the same status update. That's not generally a great practice to do in both English and Arabic. It's like me saying, hi, marhaba, I'm going to talk about banks, رح أحكي عن banks. I hope you enjoy this, inshallah تنبسطوا. So it doesn't make, this is what, when you do that in the same status update. And two, the days long, you have chances to update again. The target audience is different. You have different people in the morning and the evening and so on. So we've been talking here at ArabNet about, they've been sharing insight about the morning activity, the evening, and where we go and so on. So there are areas here where you can focus on having separate languages for each, not to have a mix of the two based on that. We reached out to some top executives in banks in the UAE, and we asked them a question related to, would you, as a top executive, like really, really high up, busy individual in that bank, would you take a day off and work on handling the social media activity of your bank? So most of the answers we got were yes. We're about, yes, we are active in this. We want to know what more people think, what they can do, how we can share this sort of stuff. So there's a lot of interest in that element. And they understand that there's you sense when we talk to the banks and you see how the content has been evolving over the last over the last year. You sense they're giving importance to the social media communication element. They're going through the social media life cycle of learning how things are happening, what's working for them, and so on. So if you want to look at general recommendations, so these are a bit high up general recommendations. They're not, one of the things is you can look at the numbers that we have here as a form of a benchmark. So you can look at the average community size is 102,000. You can look at your community. Is it lower? Is it higher? And then look at how much ad spend you're doing to build that community and so on. So that's one. The second is the content tactic is working. So when you talk about a certain lifestyle and then you tactfully try to introduce your brand. So from the content analysis that we saw that people are engaging with that tactic. So there's improvement there, but we also sense people want more from a customer support perspective from banks. So a lot of the questions the banks were getting, posting on walls, Twitter messages and so on, were about service-related issues. So some of the content that can be shared would help if it's more customer support related, and that comes through with content analysis. Not a lot of brands do enough of this. I would strongly suggest you go through your data over the last month, 2, 3, look at the content, what you've posted. How does it work? People like it, do they not like it? Do they like posts like this type of post, or posts like that type of post? So it's a different type of, take some time to look into the past, because every day you have to build your calendar moving forward. So based on data from your channels with your audience versus reading a white paper somewhere that tells you that you need to use this type of images versus that type of images. And social media advertising is very, very, very important. You need 2 budgets. The first budget is to continue to grow your community size, the number of likes and followers that you have. And the second budget is to increase the visibility of your social media content. So organic reach is gradually decreasing. So when you post something, you want more and more people to see it. You need to invest more and more in social media advertising for these 2 budgets based on that. And LinkedIn, there's a communication opportunity because a lot of professionals are on it. So they're active, they're on it, they read, they consume the content that's on there. So there isn't enough data that's being pushed out there. So there's a communication opportunity there, and take advantage of showcase pages in order to segment your service and your targeting. All right, and if you have any other questions related to banking and social media and so on, there's a lot more information inside. So we can zoom into very specific things related to the content, to the brand, how does this bank stand versus that bank, and so on. So there's a lot more data to look at. This presentation in full is available. It's already up on SlideShare, and so it's on bit.ly/UAE Bank. So you can download the whole thing, including the numbers, the graphs, and so on. And you can reach out to me by email or mobile or social in order to get additional information in case you need that. And so I'd like to wrap up and get some questions from you about areas of concern, whether it's related to banking or general stuff you're struggling with your brand. How much time do we have, Rasha? Okay.
Hi. Thank you for a very interesting presentation. Just a quick question about the bilingual content.
Yes.
So is it, as you said, it's not ideal to post in 2 languages at the very same post, but like posting 2 posts with 2 different languages
at the same time?
Yeah, would be like, would increase the clutter there on the page and for the audience as well, no?
Yes. So your question is this a good thing to post English then in Arabic?
Yes.
We've seen some brands do it. It doesn't make a lot of sense because at this moment in time, you have the same set of eyeballs in a sense that are getting your updates. So when you post 2 things at the same time, it's kind of the same thing. But if you put a bit of time between the 2, so if you really have to post the 2 today, you put the English one and then the Arabic one, post them a bit later, and then change the message so not to be a one-to-one translation.
So the thing is, like, if we're talking about banks in the UAE, we all know it's like Arabic and English. It should be this way. Otherwise, they would have like 2 separate pages.
No. I wouldn't go through that. Because if you have separate pages, we're talking about 2 different ad budgets, 2 different communication, and so on.
So we're talking about reaching audience who speak both, like some of them speak both languages, some of them like are Arabists or English speakers. So like, what's the ideal?
All right. I'd look at the product itself that you want to post. All right? It's a product, and it's timeless in a sense. So it's a season now for that product. I'd look at the messages. What's the message? That same message, have a version of it in English and a version in Arabic. And not a one-to-one translation, just a way of you saying something different. So these 2 updates for that communication message, space them out, either during the same day, so once in the morning, once a few days after, or maybe the next day, or so on. So even if somebody saw it, it's spaced out, so it's not like you're flashing them twice, and 2, the message was a bit different, so that also helps differentiate it. So instead of having them doubles and so on. Does that answer your question? All right. What else are we looking at?
Hey, buddy. Is this on? Okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering about how banks are generally integrating their social media activity with any other channels they might be utilizing, specifically from a kind of direct response perspective.
I couldn't hear you. Can you ask your question again?
I was wondering about how banks might be using social media as part of an integrated channel mix, and how they might be using it to kind of fill the funnel and then capitalizing on it from a DR perspective. The majority of the stuff that I've seen has been kind of brand related, although there is obviously a lot of product talk. But then I'm curious about how that process is then being followed up with other communication channels.
All right, thank you. So we're looking at, so the question is related to integrating the online and offline activities, and then once you grab that attention, how the follow-up is being done with that. Most of the briefs that we're seeing are related to integrated campaigns, and with a heavy focus more recently in the last year on mobile and social, both together. We haven't seen a lot of tie-in between leads, so a lot of it is about and this is why you're seeing a lot of the marketing. It's about what the product is and what the bank is. So we're not seeing a lot of tying between the lead generation process itself and the marketing element. So that could be an opportunity there. Banks do a lot of offline activations in malls and so on. Not a lot of that is also linked through their social media communication. And if you want during the break, we can talk a bit more about very specific examples that we've seen across that. What other questions do we have? Going once? Going twice? All right, guys. So if you need more access about this, so this is my contact information. So this is my email, and if you need to download the presentation, there it is. All right. Thank you.